So welcome after the break. Now we are in the second half of the program and the telephone lines are open, so you can contribute your views to the program and to bring strength to the argument which I am trying to advance to the public at large. Interestingly, two news items I discussed in the first half of the program. Two other items now I'm discussing which have the relevance to the two earlier points. One is that all the newspapers in Britain, in the United States, and most of the electronic screens of all the television in this country, they picked up these two news items today. One was the riveting revelation by Israel's energy minister Yuval Steinitz. Yuval Steinitz said today, it was picked up by all the newspapers and all the television channels, that he said that we are proud of our relations with Egypt that is supporting our the coordinated intelligence gathering networks. Very big statement. So it's not a slip of tongue. He's a very important person. Yuval Steinitz is a right-hand man of Benjamin Netanyahu. He has said that the Israelis are thankful to Egypt because the security coordination which Egypt is extending to the Israelis is a state-of-the-art thing. So it's a huge help to combat the anti-Israeli or anti-Zionist unarmed Palestinians in Israel. So this is one news item. The other news item is again Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, who is in Turkey today. Now, Angela Merkel, she deserves the laurels. She has got many feathers in her cap that she is the only political leader in the world who has taken in staggering 1 million Syrian refugees only in the last year. It's on record. 1 million Syrian refugees. They are being accommodated. They are being fed. They are being provided the shelter by this Iron Lady of today, Angela Merkel. Now she is going there. She has inquired from Tayyip Erdogan that, look, we pledged to you $3.3 billion to accommodate these Syrian Jews and make sure that they have the smooth, uninterrupted entry into your land from Syria through entrepreneur border crossing into Turkey. So we are giving you that money to feed them, to provide them shelter, and they provide them energy because this is the winter time. And we provided you that money to do that, and we are providing that money to you to do that, to keep your borders opened for the Syrian refugees. But Tayyip Erdogan and his Prime Minister Ahmed Davutoglu, so they have closed that border, and more than 35,000 Syrian refugees are braving the harsh winter on the Syrian border. So on one side, the people are killing them. The ISIL is killing them. The ISIS is killing them. And the other half a dozen franchisees, they are killing them. And on the other side, Turkey, even after being the recipient of this aid from the Western donors, Tayyip Erdogan is closing borders to the refugees. So what is the accountability of this huge money? So this is a big question. So Tayyip Erdogan must be having a tough time from Angela Merkel today. Now this is a big thing. Look at if we discuss. Now this was not in the scope or in the inclusion of my points for today's program, that I had to discuss the refugees problem. I shall just briefly touch upon the refugee crisis, which also contributes towards the Saudi hardening of attitudes towards these people who are languishing in the harsh winter without food, without shelter. Now currently, I'm quoting some statistics from UNHCR, United Nations Commission, United Nations High Commission for Refugees. That's a big institution. And according to their chief, who is Filippo Grandi, the current head of the UNHCR, who just took over on the 1st of January 2016, about 5 weeks ago. Now, according to him, currently there are 60 million refugees on the planet, both internally and externally displaced by civil wars, by political instability, by poverty, by disease, and multiple reasons. So 60 million refugees are on the planet as per the UNHCR statistics. And currently there are 14.5 million of them, they are under the UNHCR mandate. So UN is somehow that the UNHCR is providing shelter, food, medicine, and other things through different international organizations involved there. Now, there are currently 5 million Palestinian refugees. 5 million Palestinian refugees. And there are currently in excess of 6 million Syrian refugees. There are 250,000 Yemeni refugees. So a big influx. So where do they have to go to? So if a country like Germany, Germany is not a Muslim country. Germany has not got a huge land mass as compared to Saudi Arabia. German economy is on top in Western Europe and in Europe, in EU. So Germany has got a big heart also. So they are accommodating 1 million Syrian Jews. Now, what about not Jews, Syrian refugees. Now, what about Saudi Arabia? Huge land mass, which 3/4 of the land mass is not occupied. Why not Saudi Arabia comes forward and King Salman says, all right, I am dying, maybe in a year, 2 year time, I'll be dead. So before I die, I do one good deed. Kullu Muslimun ikhwatun. Using that analogy, why doesn't he come forward and instead of creating military alliances, spending $50 billion on weapon procurement every year, why doesn't he come forward with Adil Al-Jubair on his right hand and with his son, Defense Minister Mohammed bin Salman, on the left hand side? And he says, all right, we are taking in 5 million refugees, including the Palestinians and Syrians. If they do that, if they extend that gesture, I would be the first person, being the critic of Saudi Arabia, I'll say, thank you very much, Saudi Arabia, that's a great gesture, you have done it. So you're our Muslim brothers. So I'll pay tribute to 29.9 million Saudis of the total population of 30 million. So I will say, great nation, they are a great nation, but they are being ruled by pathetic leaders, by the lackluster political leaders, by a dynasty that hasn't done any good to the 29.9 million Saudis. So this is a big question. If they do that, then obviously, now Saudi Arabia, no doubt, is a big power amongst the Muslims today. And it is big power for the last 75, 80 years or so. If you take into account the work which was carried out by King Abdulaziz, the founder of the modern Saudi state, which was founded in 1932. So, in a way, Britain and United States today, they are again, sometimes they pull out from the region, their troops, and in other side, they build new military bases. For example, Britain is building a huge naval base, military base in Mina Salmon in Bahrain. So that would be a very strong hold for. So if Fifth Fleet is pulled out of Manama, then in Mina, then we have Britain. So historically, Britain has got a larger contribution towards creating the problem in the Middle East. They never solved the problem. In their entire history, colonial history of 400 years, Britain or England has never solved the problem. They have never been part of a solution, but of course they have been the part of the problem. So this problem was created by them. So it reminds me a very interesting meeting of 1921 when Churchill, as the Secretary of State for the British colonies, he convened the Cairo Conference just to decide about the future of the Middle Eastern small states, because after the Ottoman Empire crumbled in 1921-22, there were so many small states under the care of the Ottomans for the last many hundred years, and their future was of prime importance. So the decision was going to be done by Winston Churchill. So Winston Churchill had his first meeting in early 1920s with this Najdi adventurer, this Najdi nomad called Abdul Aziz in early 20s. And then, so that relationship matured, and then came a big chaos in the entire world. That was the depression, Great Depression of from 1926 to 1930s, in some areas to 1933 also. So that was the opportunity for Abdulaziz, and that was opportunity for the British Empire to redesign. So Churchill behaved exactly like Metternich behaved after 1815, when Napoleon was defeated and exiled to St. Helena Island in the Mediterranean, in the Atlantic Ocean. So Metternich, the Austrian strong ruler, he decided the map of Europe after 1815. So the Congress of Paris facilitated that. He was the virtual ruler of Western Europe in that time. Likewise, now Churchill had his time to do the same in late 20s, and then came Churchill's relationship with King Abdulaziz, which was strengthened in mid-40s, and King Abdulaziz's two meetings, one with Franklin D. Roosevelt, the American president, and other with Winston Churchill. I'll discuss that in a moment, but we've got a caller online. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. My name is Qamar and I'm speaking from London.
Okay, Brother Qamar, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam. As you discuss a couple of things I want to discuss with you as well, share rather, and as well as there's one question.
You're welcome, brother.
About the deployment of the Saudi as well as Bahraini or 34 GCC countries troop in Syria in so-called to fight against Daesh. Whereas I believe that actually they will be imbibing or rather supporting the Takfiris or Daesh people in order to topple Bashar al-Assad, as well as to polarize the whole region, including Iran, Yemen, and all these countries, Bahrain, to root out all these agitation which is taking place these days. And I just want to ask you, sir, what do you see the role of Russia, since the Russian deputy has mentioned that it will be declared as a war when these Arab countries deploy their army in Saudi without the government legitimacy. So that was the number one point, and the second one is what will be the role of Iran as well as the Yemenis in this, because eventually these thugs they're planning to deploy the forces, and the consequence of that will be very grave in long term actually. So where I think the whole world will erupt into the war game. And but I was not sure that up to what extent Russia will, because Russia will also see its interest that up to what extent it will engage in the war with these band of thugs. So please kindly answer these things. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your call. Thank you, call. I'll cover these questions towards the end of my program. Now, I was discussing basically that historically King Abdulaziz was strengthened by the United States and by Britain. So I would say, yeah, another caller we have online. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Dr. Saab. Hello?
Yes, please. Your name, brother?
Nakvi bol raha hu ji.
जी नकवी साहब अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम। डॉक्टर साहब कैसी तबीयत है?
मैं ठीक हूँ अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
डॉक्टर साहब दो छोटे से सवाल करने हैं
जरूर कीजिए।
करंट पे अफेयर पे
जी जी
कि सऊदी अरब ने जो ये ऐलान किया है कि वो अपनी फौजें कतर के साथ मिलके वो शाम में भेज रहा है, तो मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि कतर को या ये छोटी जो रियासतें को देखें तो किसी बड़े मुल्क के एक शहर की आबादी भी नहीं वो बनती। तो ये क्या सऊदी अरब ये जानते हुए भी, यमन में भी उसे नाकामी हुई, वहाँ पे दैश पे इसने सारा पैसा भी खर्च किया तो नाकाम हुए इराक और शाम में, अब ये फौजों की बात कर रहा है, तो क्या ये सोच के बात कर रहा है कि आखिरी अल्लाह लगा लें, इसके बाद और कुछ ना होगा तो फिर मार तो पड़नी है, तो आखिरी बार जो जोर लगाना चाहते हैं लगा लें, या इसके पीछे कोई ऐसी ताकत है जो इसे कह रही है कि तुम करो, हम तुम्हारे साथ है, उसे हौसला अफजाई कर रही है? या तीसरा सवाल मेरा यह है कि क्या सऊदी अरब अगर फौज वहाँ पे भेजता है तो वो किस अंदाज में भेजेगा, क्योंकि सऊदी अरब डायरेक्ट तो शाम के साथ उसका कोई तल्लक है नहीं, तो वो किस तरीके से भेज पाएगा वहाँ पे फौज? अगर वहाँ पे फौज भेज भी देता है तो वो उसकी सप्लाई लाइन कैसे होगी? क्या बड़ी ताकतों के सर पे वो ये सारा कुछ कर रहा है? क्योंकि यमन में उसने जो कुछ किया उसमें उसे जो मार पड़ी है और अभी तक वो नाकाम हो चुका है, तो क्या यहाँ पे वो नाकाम हो, यहाँ पे वो कामयाब हो जाएगा चंद फौजी भेज के, या फौज की शक्ल में वो दैश की को प्रमोट करना चाहता है फिर? थैंक यू जी, मेहरबानी,
शुक्रिया। बहुत अच्छे तीनों सवाल किए जिनका मैं कुछ तो हद तक जवाब दे चुका हूँ अपने सवाल, अपने जो मैटर में जो मैं डिस्कस किया अभी तक 45 मिनट्स में, और कुछ मैं जो रह गए वो नकवी साहब को मैं इनका जवाब ज़रूर दूंगा। आई वॉज डिस्कसिंग द रोल ऑफ यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स एंड ब्रिटेन टू स्ट्रेंथन the rule of the modern House of Saud in the region in Saudi Arabia. 1921, as I discussed, was the time when Cairo conference was convened by Winston Churchill. Second big event occurred after 25 years, when Franklin D. Roosevelt, the US president, when he met with the King Abdul Aziz at that time on the US ship. That was the time, and exactly, it's a very important day actually when they met. It was the 14th of February 1945, just before the Yalta conference. And 14th of February, that's a Valentine Day. Valentine Day that arranged between King Abdulaziz of Saudi Arabia and Franklin Delano Roosevelt of United States, the president of. So they met together, and there they tied the knot of marriage of inconvenience. So they went into a romantic relationship which is carrying on even after 70 years now. So that was the Valentine Day of 1945. Roosevelt and King Abdulaziz, they met. Around the same time, Churchill met with King Abdulaziz, and the interest for the United States was slightly different than the interest of Britain to strengthen the regime, the Saudi regime in the region, particularly in the Hijaz, in Arabia. And they supported, and at that time King Abdulaziz, despite any formal education, but he was crook, he was very clever, he said that if Britain supports him to go up to Levant and control this region through ideology, through Saudi political ideology, and through Saudi resources, if Britain does that, then he would facilitate the three British designs in the region. Number one, that Saudi Arabia will give unconditional access to the British Empire into the region, to the natural resources they have, the gas and oil. So this was one thing, and Britain was desperate to meet its energy resources after that was almost the end of the World War II. So that was one, and the Saudi king said he will definitely give free access to the British on its natural resources. Second thing which King Abdulaziz offered was that he would help Britain to recolonize under a different model this region. So today what we see, Bahrain, Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, and and other parts of the Arab world, they are, again, in a different form, in a different manifestation, they are again the colonies of Britain. Even a small people working as bartenders at the pubs in Britain, you find them on one stage, they are drawing 100,000 pounds per year in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, and in UAE. When you meet them over there on these destinations, you ask them how you got this job. They said, no, these countries are the colonies, the British colonies, yet again in a different form. So that was promised by King Abdulaziz. And the third thing was that King Abdulaziz also promised, now this is on record, that King Abdulaziz and his Arab camp followers of small states in the region, they will not oppose the British designs to provide a country, a homeland to the Zionists in the region. So these three things were said, okay, they were okay, approved by the Saudi king, and in turn, Britain said that Britain will vouch for the Saudi security for next 100 years, and Britain still is doing so. We will discuss about the US role to strengthen and bolster the Saudi regime, but after this caller, let me take this call. Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम डॉक्टर साहब, मैं माफी चाहता हूँ, एक छोटा सा सवाल रह गया था, वो आपसे पूछना चाहता था। तभी बोल रहा हूँ।
जी पूछिए।
हेलो,
पूछिए।
डॉक्टर साहब, सवाल ये है कि अभी ओबामा ने जो ये बयान दिया था कि पाकिस्तान में सदियों दसियों सालों तक अमन नहीं आ सकता, जबकि वो उसने ये देखा भी है कि ज़रबे असब जो है वो कामयाब है और उन्होंने दहशतगर्दी को कंट्रोल कर लिया है। लेकिन ओबामा ने ये जो बात कही है कि पाकिस्तान दसियों साल तक अभी दहशतगर्दी में मुब्तला रहेगा। अब ये देखना है कि सऊदी अरब के इन्फ्लुएंस हैं हुकूमत के जरिए भी, और वैसे भी वहाँ पे उसके इन्फ्लुएंस हैं सऊदी अरब के, और सऊदी अरब के तल्लुकात इसराइल से भी हैं और ओबामा से भी हैं। तो क्या ये फिर ये प्लान अब इराक शाम से उठ के पाकिस्तान की तरफ तो नहीं आने की कोशिश कर रही है कि अब वहाँ पे जो कोई है अमन चैन उसको खत्म करें, क्योंकि ज़रबे असब तो कामयाब है, लेकिन इसके बावजूद वो कह रहे हैं कि दसियों साल तक अभी कामयाब नहीं होगा, वहाँ पे रहेगी शोरश ये। और ये सऊदी अरब, इसराइल और अमेरिका, ये तीनों ही ग्रुप है जो दुनिया को तबाह कर रहे हैं, तो फिर ये उधर भी यही कुछ करना चाहते हैं, इस पे भी थोड़ी सी रोशनी डाल दें।
जी शुक्रिया,
थैंक यू जी, मेहरबानी।
शुक्रिया। So I'll take that question later. See. So when Roosevelt met with Saudi King Abdulaziz, so Roosevelt promised to set up a strong military base and make it as a part of the CENTCOM, Central Command, which got headquarters in Florida in the United States. So they opened up the Fifth Fleet around the same time. So the ground work was started in 1944 and it was completed in 1947. So here we saw the Fifth Fleet in the region that was supporting the Saudi expansionist designs under the Najdi nomad called King Abdulaziz. So this is how Saudi Arabia, the Saudi regime was consolidated by Britain and by United States. So obviously no, that marriage of inconvenience, that marriage based on mutual interest of each other, that is with the passage of time is taking new shape. The relationship is not diminishing. The relationship is not weakening between these countries. Relationship is taking new shapes. The new realities are coming in the region. Iran being a big reality. China trying to make an inroad through that northern corridor into Iran and into the Gulf and into the Arabian Sea and Russia. So currently the huge natural resources of Russia like gas and oil and the technology, state of the art, cutting edge technology of China, now they are working together. So they are working together, and once that happens in 3 to 5 years time, China and Russia, they would be a very strong power in the region, in the Arabian Sea, in the Persian Gulf, and in the Red Sea. So obviously that is the reality. That's one threat. China is also threatening the US designs, US maritime designs, US naval interest in the Pacific Rim. by creating new islands, by creating new land masses over there. So obviously, China is fighting on many battles, economic battles. China is the creditor to the US economy to the region of $2.5 trillion. So in China militarily, from the maritime perspective, China is becoming a big power, like Russia is coming back and to reclaim its political and military prowess in the region. So all that is, now they have come to know that in the 21st century, you cannot play your role as a responsible member of the international community if you carry on supporting the extremists, the terrorists, and the aggressive little states. So you can't carry on with autocratic system. You can't carry on with totalitarian regimes like Saudi Arabia, like Bahrain, like UAE. So you will have to open up. And once you open up, it's your own survival in that. So obviously, China and Russia, they will definitely change this geostrategic landscape in the region. And again, if Russia and China, they have to bank on. I was in Iran actually on that day. I gave a couple of television interviews when the Chinese president Xi Jinping was there and he met with the supreme leader Ayatollah Uzma Ali Khamenei. May Allah bless it. May Allah give him long life and keep his his hand upon us all. So that was a very meaningful meeting he had, a very lengthy meeting with the supreme leader. And also the political meetings were carried out with Jawad Zarif, the foreign minister, and President Rouhani, and the principal advisor to the supreme leader, Dr. Ali Akbar Velayati, who himself was for 17 years foreign minister of Iran from 1981 to 1998. And he actually planned and he fought back and he provided a very powerful defensive plan to the Iranian troops in the 8-year Iran-Iraq war. So all these people and the environment which was there in Tehran at that time was very, that was 19th and 20th of January, that President Xi Jinping, when he gave his interview, a series of interviews, he said he has never been impressed by a leader in his lifetime, such as Ayatollah Uzma Ali Khamenei. So obviously the relationship is growing between Iran, China, and of course, and Russia at some stage, they would be a big power. Once they become a big power, then obviously Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf Cooperation Council countries, and Turkey and Egypt, they will have to withdraw. They will have to come back to their actual sizes. So before that happens, I would like to give one piece of advice to the Saudi king, or Adil Al-Jubair, their pedocratic political leader in Riyadh. And I would like to put a piece of advice to Mohammed bin Salman, who is also just a fledgling baby, political baby in Saudi Arabia, that please make your policies bearing in mind the ground realities around you. The internal political landscape in Saudi is not in support of the Saudis. The internal dynastic conflict amongst various royal families within the House of Saud, that's another reality. And the economy, currently they are under $150 billion of budget deficit. Now they are reducing their defense budget also. So all these realities are there. If the Saudis fail to understand these realities and made their policies accordingly, then I must say that Saudis will have to be prepared to see a regime change in 5 to 7 years' time. If that happens, I would be the first person to congratulate 29.9 million Saudis, that I would say with an article of hope, article of optimism, that Islamic Republic of Makkah and Medina, Zindabad. I reiterate, the Islamic Republic of Makkah and Medina, Zindabad. We all the Muslims of Britain, we will support that Republic of Saudi Arabia, of Republic of Arabia, not Saudi Arabia. So we will start thinking about that, and it might happen in 5 to 7 years' time. So please, for the viewers, listen to this, and please remember this term. I would be able to offer my services to give a new rubric, new appellation to the Arab state of Hijaz as Islamic Republic of Makkah and Medina. With that, thank you very much indeed. See you next Monday. Goodbye.